G'day and welcome back to the Fantasy Take TV podcast. Round one has passed. The new season is upon us. Very, very happy about it. Enjoyed watching the footy on the weekend. Today we're going to go across the agenda, which is early trade strategy. There is a lot of things to talk about here. George wants to spend all his trades already, so me and JD need to talk him out of it. Some must-have players. There's probably a couple of them. A few players of concern. These two gentlemen in front of me, have a couple of those. And some players to jump on. There's some guys that George wants to waste his trades on already. The mid-price
Not
forwards.
waste.
We'll get to that. The mid-price forwards as well. There was a few of those, and a lot of those did look pretty good. And then we'll end it with our captaincy and vice-captaincy options for the coming week. So welcome in, boys. George, good to see you, mate.
Good to see you, boys. Just a shame that we can only use one trade boost per week. That's all I'll say.
And JD, how are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks, Anno. And yeah, I'm glad it's only one a week. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure George would have like 4 300k mids after week one.
We should have started the whole mid-price midfield and have 8 midfielders and 3 forwards, and he'd be happy. But anyway, we'll get into it. So I think the first thing we want to talk about is value, and George put this on the agenda because that's all he's seeing right now. So George, maybe you kick it off, mate. What are you seeing right now after round one?
Well, I think I said in my weekly video that I think playing it safe this year was pretty unforgiving. Previous years it's been all right, but I think this year it is only one round of data, but a lot of the players we expected to do really well. Like for me, Isaac Heaney, I expected to do really well. Tim English, solo ruck, 6th year. What can he do in the ruck? In the midfield, I think most of us have Rao, but a few people might have missed out on Rao. Down back, George Hewitt. If you like Sicily, I do. I know a few people don't. That's fine. So there's a lot of very underpriced players who I think will be keepers. Rao probably has keeper potential, but see how he goes long term. So the way I see it is, in the next 2 rounds, there's a chance to grab keepers that are very well underpriced, and a lot of us have started players who are way overpriced, such as Crisp or Gorn, who I'll probably hold anyway, but still it hurts to see how much value people are getting out of that slot at R1 or R2 or whatever. So I want to jump on some players now and jump off my overpriced players because we have more trades to use. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'm trying to say. So I don't know, JD, what are you thinking right now? Are you thinking it's too early? There's not enough data. Are you ready to jump on some guys, or are you not seeing the value that I'm seeing?
I think this feels like a classic round one overreaction. We have this every year with players that go off in round one and it just doesn't continue out the year. We have premiums that underperform in round one every year. We saw it from Gorn and Grundy last year, but the winning strategy was easily to stick with them and not go with the value ruck option, which Anno hasn't been, but I've been forced into. So I'd much rather have gone and bleed the value on him and have that safety at the moment rather than go for extreme value. You've been playing fantasy for a couple of years now, and it's kind of leaked into how you think about Supercoach, unfortunately, George. I think the positive is that we do have the 5 extra trades this year. And when AFL Fantasy went from 30 to 44 trades or whatever it was, the winning strategy that was eventually found and what everyone uses now is to play with more mid prices. So I think there probably is an element of Supercoach now where we need to play with slightly more mid prices than what we have in previous years. But I think if you go too aggressive, you're going to get into the situation where you're going to have lots of keepers that aren't top of the position. You might have Hewitt and Sicily and someone else that all end up around D10. And you have Lipinski and Rao that kind of end up around M12 to M15. And so you get there quicker, but I'm not sure that you have enough scoring potential to see at the end of the year. And that's what I'm worried about if we go too aggressive too early. We burn through those trades. We get a keeper team kind of a little bit earlier than others, but that fades towards the back end of the year when some of the really paid up premium teams come storming home.
Yeah, I think you guys nailed it pretty well. I'm probably more on the side of JD where, I just want to conserve trades at the start. I'm not boring. I think they have to be an absolute must-have and really have keeper upside for me to make a move after round 1 or round 2 for them. So I think the only guy I see in that is Matt Rao. You might see Lipinski in there too, George, but I just don't see him being as a keeper.
Not must-have, no, but
No?
be a nice luxury to have.
Is
I guess he could
Lipinski
probably.
I don't think because the top 8 quality is just unbelievable. So it's hard to see him breaking into that. But yeah, he's been waiting for this opportunity for years to get inside mid, and we saw what he can do. So I think he can go 105 plus. I think there's upside for more, to be honest, but low sample size. So regardless, I think he makes 200k. That's my view on him.
Yeah, 200k is probably like the best case scenario for him. So yeah, I would probably throw Rao at the top. If you don't have him, he's an absolute target to get. But all these other guys, I just, we don't have to move for Hewitt. We don't have to move for Lipinski, in my opinion, all these other mid prices. But
Heaney.
Look, he's definitely underpriced as well, but just someone that we don't really need right now in the forward line, just the way the structures have gone. But yeah, obviously you seem a bit more aggressive, George, and me and Jay more on the conservative side. But yeah, I see Rao as the only one you really absolutely must have. Do we see any other must-haves here? I think we've written down Lockie Neal. If you don't have him, you got to find a way, boys.
Yeah, I think there's the occasional person that said they don't have Neil, which is quite rare, hopefully, especially being listed to us because it's been locked in all preseason. But if you don't have Neil, looks like going to provide, like, be a top 8 keeper, provide tremendous value. And so I think, like, even if you had like Oliver and Steele and one of them underperformed next week, I would still endorse trading one of them to Neil just because of the money you make for similar scoring. Yeah, he looks like a real must-have.
Same, George.
Don't really see anybody else. Obviously, like the rookies, I think we'll get to soon. So in terms of mid prices and premiums, they're probably the only ones. I guess maybe Dunkley if you don't have him.
Grundy?
No, I think others. My take on Grundy is his time on ground is. I'd have to double check, but in previous years it's been like low 80s rather than 90 when it was back in the day. I'll get that up in a sec, but I think he's like 120, not 130 anymore.
Yeah, so I think when he was at his peak scoring, he was like high 80s, and then over the last 2 years he went 84 and 81%, and then time on ground on the weekend was back to 85%.
Okay, yeah.
Which is promising. I mean, the stuff we heard over the preseason was that he'd slimmed down, lost weight, improved his running capability. So yeah, you'd hope to see a little bit more time on ground from him this year.
We wanted to quickly get onto trade boost strategy. Just your early thoughts on it. Would you use it in round, so after next week, heading into round 3? If, say, you had more than obviously 2 correctionals to do, would you rather wait for one more week of data and then pop a trade boost if you need to do 3 changes, or would you rather get one you think is pretty certain of being done next week anyway out the way, and then try not to use a trade boost next week? What do you think about that, George?
No, trade boosts are no-go zone for me. I know I joked earlier in the video that I want to use 5, but in the 1 week. But trade boosts for me are for accelerating upgrades from round 6 to round 10-ish, round 9, that sort of range. Only if they're completely necessary. If the rookies aren't there to downgrade, they're not there. And then I think I want to save one for the round 14 buy, where it's always going to be tough, assuming by that point maybe we have Gordon Grundy. Maybe other people have different, or Darcy as well. I think there's a few others in that buy as well. So that's what I'm thinking. So yeah, use them to get ahead on upgrades. Hopefully that means an extra rookie off the field than other people that have used a trade boost earlier for a few weeks. So my take is no. I think probably the only case is if you don't have all these rookies, like you don't have Martin, you don't have Hayes, you don't have Neil, you don't have Rao, plus you maybe have another issue. That would be probably the only scenario where I would use one.
Yep.
Because like Rao's just got a 150 in his price cycle. Neil's got a 140. You got to get him now. So yeah, that's probably the only case. But no touch zone for me, unless like a catastrophe happens. No.
Yeah. JD, I think you might be using a trade this week to try and avoid that next week. Is that right?
Yeah, so I'm in, I guess, like a little bit of a trickier position where I've got 2 premiums that I'm seriously concerned about in Crisp and Ridley, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. And then I've also got 2 of the cheaper rookies that I need to trade in, most likely, which is Martin and Hayes. And so for me, it's like if I'm going to use 4 trades over 2 weeks, and it makes sense to do 2 now and 2 next week, and save the trade boost. But I'm hoping that I don't actually need to do all 4 of those. So I'm hoping that, one of Crisp or Ridley comes good, or maybe like Hayes gets knocked out by Ryder and I only need to use 2 trades next week and can save one. So for me, it's like, do I take the safety of saving a trade boost next week now by doing 2 trades this week? Or do I risk having to use a trade boost this next week, but potentially save an extra trade now? And I'm on the side of like, I'd rather risk it to save the extra trade. And if that means I have to use a trade boost next week, then so be it. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it at the moment. But I'm hoping, I guess, in the ideal world, I don't need to use any other trades next week. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Like just quickly for me, like I don't have Jack Hayes, so obviously like reasons for that. Thought Ryder was going to take his spot, but the other like side of it is I want to trade somebody to get Jack Hayes in, but I'm not actually sure who yet. It's probably going to be Dixon because I think Darling's about to come back, and that might hurt his job security. But I've been wrong on job security with these guys before, so I'll just one of the like as much as I want to get these guys in now, I also want to figure out which one I get rid of.
Yep.
So
that's a really good point. You think you want Hayes and Martin right now, but you might trade the wrong rookie that ends up being a good one as well. So, waiting another week on data is definitely probably the way to go. We just talked about a few of them. Those probably the 4 rookies that besides the guys that pretty much everyone owns, like Dacos and Horn Francis, and even the defender rookies, we had none. So we've all got McCartan and DeConning and probably mostly Hinge as well. But Hayes, we spoke about, Martin, and then Rochelle and Durden. Rochelle really impressed as well. I'm the only guy here without him, so he's one I need to monitor next week. And again, he's not going to be easy to get to if he becomes sort of a must-have. But what about Corey Durden, guys? I think we've all got him. Should people be looking to get him in as well next week? He's 143k, so it may be a little hard, but what do you think, JD?
So I think none of them are must trade-ins this week as long as your team's in a good position, right? Like my team's in a bad enough position, I'm going to have to go early on one. And so that's a calculated gamble that I'd rather not take, but I'm going to have to. For everyone else, I think you wait and see the second week. Durden looks like a really good forward option, but probably behind Rochelle, Martin, and Hayes, who we've talked about. So it's only if you've got all 3 of those and you still got room for another one that like Durden is a good option. But yeah, wait and see what they score next week before they get their first price rise. You could have a situation where Durden scores 120 and the other 3 that we talked about all score 40, and he becomes the most obvious like must have because he's going to have that 120 in his early price rises while the other's going to get 40. So that's the benefit of waiting. But yeah, like they all look like really strong forward rookies, and you probably want all 4 of them ideally. I think if you miss on Durden, it's not going to kill you based on what we've seen so far, but he's going to be a really strong cash generator if you don't have him.
How would you rank these guys, George, moving forward?
Definitely. Probably Nick Martin 1, and then Hayes 2, factoring in price. Rochelle 3, Durden 4.
Yeah, factoring price and fieldability as well.
Yes, it's just with like Hayes did this in the SNFL, so this is not a one-off. Look, there will be down games. Like there will be you field him, you feel bad about it, but there will also be good times as well when you field him. So I definitely want Hayes and Martin. Rochelle's a little more trickier to trade in if you don't have him, just because of his price. And we say he's not going to do this every week, but he's literally done this every game that he's played in the preseason, including like trial games. So
I'll keep saying it till it happens.
We'll see. And Durden's a little tricky to get in as well. So don't move mountains to get Durden in. It's just if you can go Owens to Durden and you have the money randomly, that's the only scenario I'd do that. Otherwise, just leave it.
All right, guys, we're going to get onto the more annoying part that you two are going to have to go over, and I'll try and give my opinion as well. But players are concerned, and I can't put him up on screen because today we've gone with the more intimate setup if you're watching on YouTube. But Jack Crisp. I'll be honest, I didn't watch all of the game. I was a bit busy, so you two probably had your eyes fixated on it, and from the sounds of our conversations, you did not like what you saw. So I'll go to you, JD, first, if you want to get your thoughts out of the way.
All I can say is you are lucky you didn't have to watch the woeful effort that was Jack Crisp in the midfield as one of the poorest performances I've seen. He has no midfield craft. He has no clue what he's doing in there. He doesn't know when to spread, when to attack the ball, when to tackle. He looks lost. He looked like a first gamer, honestly, that was doing his first game in the midfield, and it was terrible. Like, it was so bad. I can't overstate how bad he was. The only time, and then the worst part is that in the preseason games when he wasn't on the ball, he was behind the ball, and so between the two, his scoring was pretty good. This game, they put him forward of the ball when he wasn't on the ball, and it was shocking. He has even less of an idea what to do at half forward than he does in the midfield. This is a terrible role, and if it keeps up, he is a must trade next week. We saw a couple of small highlights from Crisp, which was him receiving through the middle at pace, kicking it 50 meters long to a forward line, setting up goals. But those moments were so far and few between that it's hard to see him scoring 100 in this role, which is crazy given that he had 55% CBAs on the weekend.
Yeah, it's very concerning. This feels like there's parallels to Caleb Daniel last year where things have sort of shifted around him. And it's, I think you definitely want to see another week of data. I'm not sure I can do that if I have plans for next week. I think Crisp is a hold for 1 week. Is just a lot of money tied up to him. So, and if you don't have Hewitt, Hewitt plays the Dogs this week, by the way, so it might not be the best outing. We'll see how it goes, but I think you can bank 170k right there from a potential issue to Hewitt, who I'm pretty confident will be a keeper. So, see how he goes. He looked awful. Like, he struggled to find the ball. A few of his kicks inside were just direct turnovers. Oh my goodness. It was like, finally he did something. It's a turnover. God damn.
The one where he finally got a cheap mark on the wing, turns inside. Yeah. And hits the opposition 20 meters away on the chest.
It wasn't a goal.
Okay. Oh. Yeah. Here's the thing, because people are like, hold your premiums, and like, shut up. I'm saying, because it's true, but things might work out for him eventually. He kind of finds his way in that team. Like in the Amy game, when he played really well, Lipinski was injured and DeGoey was, I don't know, playing sore. He was just invisible that game because maybe he had the rib issue, probably more forward as well. So it was the Lipinski and DeGoey show on the weekend.
There was no Taylor Adams either, and he led that midfield this weekend.
He's back. Yeah.
Okay. So it's just like he's kind of, players are doing what he was doing before. And like he's been asked to play midfield when you know that that's not his best role.
Yep.
So when there's issues with the role, you can ask questions. It's not as simple as he's a premium, hold him. There's role issues.
Yep.
Ideally, you watch another week.
There's a very big difference between like Crisp, who it's role, versus someone like Oliver, Steele, Gawn, who just had down games. They had too many clangers, like kind of games. Script didn't go their way, whatever it is, right? Like they're going to bounce back. They've still got the same role. They're still the same players. Crisp showed that he couldn't play midfield and it was a worse role than the preseason. And like you paid $570k for 22 games of 100 to 105. You're not getting that. I don't think you're getting 100 average based on what we saw on the weekend. And that's scary. So he's got the Crows this weekend. And if he doesn't bounce back, he is probably gone from my side. I'd say like more likely than not that he's gone next week if he doesn't post a really, really good score and actually look decent against the Crows this week.
I just want to see him look good in the role, that whatever the hell role he plays. So, yeah. And then probably move on to Ridley, I guess.
Yeah, Ridley's the other one.
This is a mess.
If you doubled up on these two, you're really,
they threw him forward. What the hell?
Yeah. I mean, the game was already over by then.
Look, he still almost outscored Crisp, by the way, going forward for a quarter where he saw nothing.
Oh.
So, a few things went down badly here. I spoke about this on my review probably in a bit of detail because I'm a bomb enough, but Essendon's midfield was terrible. If you watched the game, you saw it. We got smashed out of stoppages. We got smashed out of the centre. And for the first two quarters, it was Dangerfield hitting whichever forward on the chest that he wanted. There's no opportunity for the defence to set up, to spoil, to intercept mark. It was really quite bad. And then even when the game kind of started getting a little bit more on Essendon's terms with basically the Cats just taking the foot off off the gas pedal. Ridley then like started cramping. They started moving around magnets in the second half, like doing stuff like playing Parish forward, putting Ridley as the third tall. And it's really hard to know what was going on in terms of how much of it was was Ridley not playing good versus like it was Essendon's midfield just being awful versus there being potentially something wrong with Ridley. And I from that game, I cannot tell you. So it's once again one of those things where they've got Brisbane this weekend, and you're looking for the midfield and Essendon as a whole to bounce back, and then you can maybe get a read on where Ridley's at this year. But yeah, like for someone I was really bullish on in the preseason, I'm now super worried based on what I saw.
Feel the same, George?
Yeah, Ridley's like there's a lot of moving parts around him. By the way, Essendon are just moving magnets like no tomorrow. I don't know why.
Well, we had Langford go down, which was pretty bad because he was like normally he plays wing half forward, but with us only playing 2 tall forwards and Baldwin being the second tall as a first gamer, they were planning to use Langford up forward a bunch, I think. So when he went down early and they brought Cutler on, who can't play forward of the ball, like
did
it just
Cutler
messed
play
up the
defense?
structure. Yeah,
he played defense, so yeah.
So you had like Jake Kelly coming up the wing, you had Ridley in the forward line for a little bit. They were just trying to do stuff that worked, but to be honest, it wouldn't have mattered what you did because the midfield was getting so badly beaten. You couldn't judge whether the forwards or the defense was good based on that game.
Yeah.
So I think it's rookie corrections this week, then look at them next week. But I'm very concerned.
So just on rookie corrections then, who can you trade out this week? Which rookies can you turf?
Probably just Machito. Machito could come good, but it'd be pretty shocking if he played again after sitting him on the bench for 50% of the game. That was a really strange decision.
Yeah, just him. And then Hugh Dixon, if what you say is true, George, and Darling's actually not too far away.
I think he could. I think Bailey Williams is probably worse. I think there's a chance Dixon stays in. We'll see.
True.
I want to hold Dixon.
I thought Dixon looked all right. Like he led well at the ball. I think he had a goal. He crushed packs when he flew at it. Like there was a couple of almost marks, which I thought was pretty good sign. So yeah, I don't know. I liked his game. And the thing is, if he's in the side, it's hard for me to think that trading him to Hayes is a worthwhile trade. Because I think he's going to make 150K pretty easily, Dixon himself.
It's hard. Because I want to hold most of these guys, or all of these guys. It's just Hayes could really sting. If he puts up like a 120 again in a few weeks' time, he could get to 400s.
So I guess like a bit of caution on Ward, who had roughly 50% CBAs but scored 36 on the weekend. Given that he's got an elevated price tag of 180, if he drops another 30, like basically another poor game next week, is he someone that you can trade out?
I think it's definitely on the cards. Obviously, the rookie would have to look very good, or one you can't really pass up because he just faded out of the game. He was cramping towards the end. Spent the last 10 minutes or so on the bench, and look, I mean, Sam Mitchell was joking around about it, saying you should find footage of Joshy because he can barely walk or something. But it's not a great sign, but he showed that he can do it in the preseason. So, it'd have to be another pretty poor game or poor score, put it that way.
The only thing worse than trading premiums that do well is trading capable rookies and watch them make 200K.
Yeah, Tom Powell last year. Don't talk to me about
Jordan. The James Jordan experience.
So I think that was a good learning experience last year, for me anyway. So he's a capable rookie. I want to hold him on the bench. It's just if there has to be someone that comes in for someone like a Nick Martin and he's the worst one, I guess it's probably him. But like 99%, like I do not want to trade Josh Ward, looking at what he did in the second preseason game. But it is a little concerning that pulled up sore from the practice game, and then he like barely got through this game.
True.
So I just want to like he's not touching my field for a while.
I guess like the other concerning thing as well is like that was against easy opposition in a game that they won. You're not predicting too many Hawk wins for the year, which is just like where do the big spike games come from? Where do the points come from? And like sure, we've seen lots of rookies score well in poor performing teams. It's just that is a little bit of concerning that even when they had the easy kill that he didn't really perform.
Just chuck him on the bench and just assess in a few weeks. I'm not really interested in trading him.
All right, we'll move on to just top targets, and obviously we're not really anywhere near upgrade season yet, but just guys that most of us wouldn't own, and ones we watched on the weekend and looked like, damn, they're definitely guys we would want to own in the future. We'll start on defense, and I think Tom Stewart is probably close to the top of the list, if not up there with the other guy. But yeah, he looked really impressive. Scored about 30 points in the first 5 or 6 minutes when I was watching, and that just helped him tick up for the rest of the game because the ball wasn't really coming to him at all for the rest of the entire game. So yeah, obviously the foot was the main concern with him, but everything else he ticks all the boxes. His role's been the same for 4 years, and Geelong just play that same game. So although they did take the game on a bit on the weekend, but that's probably a product of the way the game played out. But yeah, would Stuart be on the top of you two guys list, JD?
Yeah, I think if I'm sidewaysing a defender this week, he is either target 1 or target 2. I think he has to be. He had the potential to go much larger on the weekend if Essendon put up any form of resistance. There was 6 behinds for the game from Essendon, and Stewart took half those kickouts. So yeah, if there was actually much of a competition down back, it looks like all ball is going to go through Stewart to exit defense. So would absolutely be my target. I guess he's got the blend of durability and scoring power that I don't see from any other defenders at the moment.
Don't think his durability is that good. A lot of his issues have been in pre-season.
It's better than the only other person I would have ahead of him for scoring.
I guess we can say that is, and that's obviously Aaron Hall. So I think a lot of us were watching that game going, damn, I wish I owned this guy, but he just really couldn't. And especially with all the preseason talk over injuries and whatnot, doing a hamstring in the last game before it, or second last game, wasn't it? But to be touch and go for round 1 and just get up, and it was a really hard selection to make. A few did go with it, but he's only, I think, 2% ownership. So, man, I was worried he was going 200 at halftime, and he did slow up in the second half. Maybe that's a factor of his, interrupted preseason, but yeah, his role is amazing, and he is really, really good in it. Like, well, I think he was 100% by foot the first half, which is just insane. And they're not hard kicks either. They're not easy kicks either. He's taken on really, really, tough 45 degree kicks. But yeah, would he be your D1 target if you're not factoring in durability, boys?
If you could guarantee 22 games, you'd do anything you could to get him in your side. Like, he's that far clear of the other defenders when it comes to scoring power at the moment.
I mean, I don't start players that have had a soft tissue injury within like the first leading up to round 1. That's not going to change now. It could hurt because we know his ceiling, but it's just I would have started him if I didn't have that rule, I guess. So that's why I didn't start Dawson, but his was less serious. So, but it's going to sting though.
And then I guess, like, in terms of other targets, just for the next couple of weeks, you've got to keep Hewitt front of mind as well before the price rise. Just because even though we don't see him scoring as high as some of these other two, he's at 400k rather than 580. So that's a massive cash difference. There's a lot of value there to what George is talking about. And I guess for me, like, I could go Crisp and Ridley to a Stewart or Hall, but I do have to consider going to, say, a Hewitt over one of them just because of the value that it provides and the money that kind of helps with the upgrading. So yeah, those are probably the 3 big ones that are worth keeping in mind at the moment if we're forced to make corrections, or if you're thinking about who to upgrade to first in a few weeks.
Cool. And we've got midfield. I mean, we have Lipinski here for the midfield. We probably spoke a little bit on him before.
George has Lipinski in the midfield. No one asked him to put it there.
Are there any others? Like Tom Green, we're not touching. Like, looked really, really good, but 430k, it's not someone you're probably trading in. Same could be said about Cripps.
It's hard with Green. The sample size isn't there. He did a hamstring late last year, which is never a great sign. And you need him to be a keeper at 430k, whatever he is. It could work, but it could not work. I'm not sure it's worth the risk, but yeah.
I think the one that is really interesting is Luke McDonald, right? Who went massive on the weekend, was playing that halfback role again where he's been a primo in the past. He's 370k as a mid, which is obviously a really awkward price. But the difference between him and some of these others is that he would be a defensive keeper once he gets DPP in round 6. So it's kind of interesting to think about, is he worth selecting after maybe the end of next week with an eye on him going into your defense at round 6?
On Luke McDonald, I'm not sure if he gets more accountable roles going forward because, when he was a 118 average in 2020, second half of the year when he got the half-back role, he was the primary distributor down there. Now they have Hull. Hull is probably still number 1 distributor back there. So he took an absurd amount of intercepts, probably did a bit more defending than Hull did. So it's hard to get a read on this one, really hard. So I want to see another week, and even then it's a little dicey. So I think it's going to require a little bit more research, and it's going to be very hard to fit him in as well, especially for me who I'm trying to fit Lip in. So one to keep an eye on, but a little bit of uncertainty on this one. So I definitely would not go him this week. I think get another week of data and assess from there.
One other to bring up actually with this range is Newcomb. Did you catch much of him in the Hawks game? I missed the second half, but apparently that's where he went off. He finished on a 119. He's priced at 261k, so is an alternative to Berry if Berry doesn't pan out next week.
Yeah, I did ask about him because I saw his score and then I saw his price, but apparently he did play forward and was just involved in a lot of the scores in the second half, like kicked a goal. I think he had a goal assist or two, and obviously that helped win the game. So I think he got quite a lot of scaling because, he only 79 dream team for 120 super coach pretty much. So
he had
played a part.
43% CBAs, which was slightly less than Ward, but obviously did a lot more with the opportunity. And then I guess like the only other thing with the mids is we talked about a lot of the value options. We also talked about, I guess, a couple of the premiums in defense. Are there any of the primos that caught your eye as kind of must-haves or first upgrade targets?
First upgrade targets. Look,
if you don't have Took Miller and McRae.
Stop it.
I guess we need these guys to drop a bad score in a month's time, right? To be able to probably afford them. Like the 87 from Steele, that's in round 1. That's not going to help in dropping his score if he bounces back.
I do feel like I would rather be jumping on value rather than fair price players right now. Such as
Tom Mitchell. Tom Mitchell dropped an 80, didn't look too good. If he gets it cheap enough.
I want to see he had groin problems leading into round 1, and I think we saw that play out. So that's he's going to be a hard avoid.
More for in a month's time.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
No,
what about Petrarca? Did he impress enough for him to be a target? Do you actually think there's value at his price? Well, he's only 600k. Only.
I guess if you started him, well done.
How the hell do you get to Petrarca? It's like impossible.
Yeah, it's true because you're not sidewaying any of your premiums. I guess if you're going crazy and trading out, go on. But yeah, I was like, I don't know how you do it.
No,
you're not going to allow for structure either. Okay.
The rucks, I think there's really only one, maybe two. JD can put a case forward, but Tim English, a lot did actually end up starting him in our Discord anyway. A few have him at R2 and benefited from that because he looked really good. And look, I think he had 7 free kicks, so 123 is a good score, but probably taper your expectations a bit with that. But do you wish you started him at R2, George?
Yes, of course. I didn't have the balls to. I saw the matchup against Gorn, and I saw what happened in the grand final, where I think they played Steph mostly in the ruck anyway. So he's improved his ruck work over the preseason. It wasn't outstanding, but he's competing a bit better at the tap. He's not getting annihilated. He's just losing a little bit. Around the groundwork is first class. Taking marks down back, intercept marks, taking marks on the wing, getting involved in chains. You can snag a keeper with a high ceiling for 470k right here.
This is like a lot of hindsight though. So we thought that he might be viable as a pick if he was ruck 1, but all the talk was that Martin was still going to be rucking and English was going to be playing forward and relief. And team sheets were named and English was not the number 1 ruck, Martin was. And it was just because Martin was a late out. So I think you either had to be like really bullish on English even before that, which to me seems foolish, or like you had to be ready for a Martin laid out, and now you're taking the gamble that Martin doesn't come back in throughout the year. I think Bevo mentioned afterwards that he liked how the one ruck worked and had English as solo ruck. But yeah, I don't know. That's the part that scares me about that as a pick.
Beveridge is trolling on team sheets.
I think he was always doing that. He's,
Yeah.
obviously the Tom Morris thing, which we're not getting into, but he trolled with that. He put Hunter in, put him back out just to stuff around. So, we'll wait till Wednesday, see if he's named ruck again and Steph's not in the team. But I think they want to continue with it.
Yeah,
I think they have to.
He said
cooked
a week before. Yeah, he is, and he said a week before we need Tim to ruck. That's what he said.
Yep.
Tim English is the number one ruck there. I don't know what this.
But Tim doesn't want to ruck. Isn't that the problem?
I think he wants to now. Last year it was he wanted to be a forward. This year in the preseason, he's worked really hard on his ruck work. I think he wants to. He's taken the challenge to be the number one ruck.
I think that was the most impressive thing about him, by the way, in that game, which is he didn't beat Gorn in the ruck or anything like that, but he held his own. Like, he didn't get dominated. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, like he's at the point where he's not the best tap ruckman. He probably never will be, but at least he kind of halves the contest and then does the work around the ground to make the Supercoach points.
I know I've been called an idiot for suggesting Gorn to English, but my logic is if it depends on how high you are on English, I think, and what Gorn's break even is. Because obviously you want Gorn back, but Gorn we know will drop. If he continues the way he scored with Jackson, he will drop 100k like he did last year to 550. And I'm not sure what English's ceiling is. He scored a 90, I think a 110 and a 120, something like that in the last 3 games, including those are the preseason games. So this week, worth noting, he had 8 frees 4, but he was against Gorn and Jackson, arguably the nightmare matchup in the ruck. So it's interesting. I want one more look at English. If I think English can go 110 plus, which is, I guess, really hard to guess. See how he goes this week, plays against Tom de Koning. If he completely annihilates him, which he probably should, I'll consider jumping on because he's so cheap and Gorn is so overpriced. But I think other people are just quickly, would you do that move,
If I had Gorn, I'd have to consider what the money would get me. Would you be upgrading a Berry or something to another forward or a defender or something, or where would you be putting that? What is it, 200k into?
If you still had Chapman, you could get Chapman to Hewitt, then that's pretty interesting. But yeah, because it's 170k now plus English is underpriced, Gorn is overpriced, and maybe it's another 50 or 100k. So it could be a 250k trade with you losing some points in the short term. But yeah, there's a lot of things that have to go right. Gorn can't go off. English has to continue to perform like a forward 6 primo. You can't have Martin coming back into the team. It's risky. I think it's one of those things where, if you have no other problems with your team, you've nailed all the rookies, everything else looks fine, and you're trying to get a leg up on the competition, then it's definitely a risk you could take. All right, I don't think it's the worst idea.
Yeah. Just quickly, shout out to 40 scores. He actually had 6 hitouts to advantage, and Gorn only had 8. Look, he did lose the hitouts overall considerably, but that's pretty decent. Although
small time numbers compared to my man Witts.
Well, I was going to say, do you want to make a case for your man Wittsy?
No, I don't
he's
think
not a target.
Downgrading for him. No. But he looked much better than what I expected off the ACL. His time on ground was above 75%, which is what I thought the target would be for him coming back. He obviously looked great with Rowell and Miller at his feet, which does allow those hitouts to advantage. And he held his own against Nick Nat. I actually think he probably won the ruck battle overall, negated Nick Nat around the ground when it came to marking contests. So yeah, it was really good for those that have him or got forced into him with the Darcy incident. He looks like he could work out as long as he stays on the park. But obviously they don't play West Coast each week in close games that they win. So yeah, don't expect those big scores. But if we kind of get a 90 average, or actually I think we're kind of hoping for 100 average, but yeah, 90 plus is good. I can see George is trying to hold it back because he's getting really upset that Darcy worked out, but for all the wrong reasons.
No, it's fine. I think it's not only Witts. It's all, even Hayes. It's just I'm getting smashed at points per dollar at this with having Gorn. It's not good. I don't like it.
But it was
It's 1 week.
and Gawn did this last year. He scored
But Gawn
nines every year.
We thought Gawn was going
What
to
if
go
he goes
130 last
150
year.
next week, mate? And JD fields a Witts for a 50. I field Hayes for a 60. You'll be singing something else next.
The only time he went 150 with Jackson, I think last year, was the game he kicked 5 goals against Geelong, and then the other game where he got like 30 points for the goal on the siren. It's just it's so much rarer. Like it was like a norm the past 2 years, but it's just very rare now. Gawn is a 115 guy. That's how I view that. I think we can move on, but you can see where I'm at.
The forwards, the forwards that impressed us, because most of us besides George really only have Dunks, Butters, and then straight to Cogs. So we have to sort of start looking at who will be our targets. And Isaac Heaney, we all dream of him. I would have started him. I think he would have been my third choice if structure allowed. I know what we saw the last game before the season started wasn't great, but I still saw the upside at his price and know that he can average mid-90s as a forward anyway. So how does it feel, George, to sort of own somewhat of a pod in Isaac at F? Is he F2 or F3? F2.
Feels really good. Fantastic. His game was good. I guess I was trying to add up. Like I knew they wanted it. They trained him all in the midfield in the preseason. And then I saw the team sheets. I think Logan McDonald, McLean, and Buddy were in the forward line. Like, what? You're going to run a fourth tall for the entire game? So, his role was he can score anywhere, which is the beauty of owning him. But, started on a wing, bit of half forward, bit of deep forward, a little bit of CBAs, and then more full-time mid in the second half. And, I just watched him the whole game run up and down the ground, and it was a joy to watch. It was, his ability to run. I'd love to see the Telstra tracker numbers or whatever they do, because it would be very high. So he did struggle a little bit to get his hands on it. I think it was more wing in the first quarter, but once he got going, GWS, bunch of top 5 picks, no match for Isaac, none of them. So 450k. And again, look, the durability thing is a lot of people would have looked at Heaney and gone, we've been through this before. The durability will always be there in terms of being reckless, but I thought it was worth it. And it's round 1, and hopefully things keep going the way they are. So here we go. Is he do you guys view him as someone that you must get in, or is it just, you're happy with the mid prices you got at the moment?
He can't be a must get in, but for me, he's probably the top of the list if we were creating one. It's just, we are not in the position to be moving mountains to get him. Like, how the hell are we getting him? When we're doing the Gawn downgrade, are we, and getting rid of Brody or something? That's like the only way. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think as Enno mentioned, like the reason why we didn't start a third primo forward or a Heaney is because structure didn't really allow it. And I think, George, like you've got Gibcus as one of your defender rookies, which we don't have, which I'm pretty happy with. And so I guess like I've got to hope that having the extra primo defender and then better cash generation up front offsets the value that Heaney provides and having Gibcus down back, which after Heaney's first game, I'm not sure that's true anymore. If he can keep up anything close to that. But that's where the trade-off is in the structure. So for me, it's just really hard to see how we would bring him in now unless something happened to a McGovern or a Cherry or a Brody or something next week, which facilitated us getting him in.
I think we'll assess what he does next week, because if he goes like 140 again, chances are he's not going to average 140. But
against the Cats as well, like that'd be a big game.
We did it against the Giants. They're pretty good.
Possible.
Look, I guess assess next week. Don't need to bring him in this week.
The guy I've got here second is sort of the next forward. I mean, it's Taranto. I mean, I know the whole role situation. He's playing forward until Toby Green gets back. But I did say it last week, I think, in the Discord. Like, I'm not going to be surprised if this guy doesn't drop an absolute dollar for the first 6 weeks until Toby Green's back, because he's more than a capable forward. He was really impressive on the weekend. I think he kick 2 goals? But he had close to 30 touches as well. So I think he kicked 1 goal, 3. But he's really important for them. Like, he doesn't have to play full-time mid to be scoring well. So would he be up there for you guys? I mean, I think he already is, but do you see him even dropping in price at all?
Probably. I mean, he'll probably have one of those games. He had I think it was 50% disposal efficiency.
Yeah,
It'll
he
happen
still went
eventually.
120.
It'll happen eventually. Yeah. So yeah, and he had a really good preseason as well, coming into the right age. So worth noting, he shares the bye with Butters and Cogs. Plus, I think a lot of us will have short. I think Ridley, Hewitt down back. That I think there's one more I'm forgetting.
Whitfield.
It's it's going to be
That's
tough.
the first buyer, isn't it?
And I have Steele as well in the midfield. You guys can get him very cheap, unfortunately, later. But I think I'll look at him post-buy.
Yeah. I mean, I think if he drops in price for Green's return, I'll try and get him then and make that work, just because I think there's a chance he does get out of our range. But we're going to see ups and downs with Taranto. As we kind of mentioned, the disposal efficiency is not great, and you're going to have games where those clangers add up and he's going to drop some poor scores. But just the 32% CVA. So not a ton of mid-time, and I think that will lead to inconsistency over the coming weeks. But yeah, well, it's one of those wait and sees. I think if you started him, you're obviously very pleased with the 119 from game one.
Beautiful. And then that's pretty much it for now. Look, we'll probably have a longer list next week after we get a second game of data. But let's now go over some of those mid-price forwards that we're all looking at, and part of the reason why me and JD didn't start Heaney. But Tristan Cherry, so a bit of a troll job by North, or just the classic team cheat stuff where he's named Ruckman. Goldie's named Ruckman on Thursday. Then once the full bench is named in the 22, Cherry moves to Ruckman, and that's exactly what we saw. He, I think he spent over 80% time on ground. He attended almost double the ruck contest that Goldie did, and Goldie looked pretty good forward. So, really happy with the pick. 79 is a solid score. I think he gets nicknapped this week, but I see a good score and a ton like he put in the preseason game in him at some point. So I'm pretty happy with the pick. How do you feel about it, George?
It's good. We got number one ruck for 200k. It's pretty good, and he's a decent ruckman. So I guess a few people jumped off at the last second. I think understandable, but I think there was enough noise in the preseason to start him. Probably don't need to jump on him, but I think he'll be a good one for us.
What I love about Cherry is that with myself running Wits, Enno, you've got the big green machine Trek at R2 that is potentially going to miss games, is he becomes really handy cover being able to swap with Hayes or Dixon at R3 at round 6 when he gets DPP. So that's what I really like about this pick. It just makes some of those riskier ruck options just work out a little bit better than they otherwise would. The thing that I don't like about this pick is that the three talls I don't think worked for North, and it's what's being picked up in a lot of the media this week. He was obviously better than Coleman Jones, obviously better, and I think it was arguable that he was up there with Goldie, although Goldie had the 2 goals. So if they do drop tall, I think it's Coleman Jones, but then that does worry that there could be competition for spots if Cherry doesn't play as well in the next few rounds. That's the only thing that I saw as a downside kind of coming out of that game.
I don't see that happening, to be honest. If it's
they got
CCJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
think it's a low chance, but it's just something to be aware of. I don't think 3 talls worked. They're going to have to drop one.
It's been
probably
spoken
not
heavily
in
about
this week, but yeah.
All the media's already said it for the last 24 hours, but one of my mates, a North
Never
fan,
been so much North coverage.
one of my mates was at the game who's a North fan, and when they got CCJ, he was over the moon, and he was texting me at about halftime telling me, can we have him back, because he was not impressed at all. So we'll see what they do. I think they probably just persist with the 3 anyway for the short term, but maybe it's something they change later on. So I think we're all pretty happy with Cherry. Maybe we can just quickly move to McGovern first, because I think we're pretty happy with him as well. Had kickouts. I think, what was it, JD? 4 of the 8 or something like that.
Yep, 4 of 8.
Looked really impressive.
4 of 10. 4 of 10.
Oh, it's 4 of 10. Either way, he had pretty much most of them. Looked really impressive in the air. Look, only scored 70. It's a great score, but he did spend the last 10 minutes or so off the ground after trying to take a mark of the year for no reason. But his role's perfect. The only worry with him ever was his body. But really, really liked what I saw from him. George, are you a little bit concerned, or?
It was a bad miss, I think.
Yeah.
Tossing up between Brody and McGovern, and opted for the cheaper option. I think I made the wrong call.
Is it one you would fix?
No, I won't grab him, but the role is perfect and he's good at it. So it's going to be frustrating to watch. But if you got him, good job. Don't have him.
And you're happy,
Can't do
JD?
much.
Yeah, very happy with McGovern. Yeah, so the kick out's obviously a plus. He almost had the goal in the game, and then he almost took mark of the year with this specky. So, there are a couple of things where if he'd stayed on the park, kicked the goal, he could have gone 100 this game, which you're not going to get every game. But yeah, I liked what I saw. His role was really super coach friendly. He's best 22. It's just the body holding up is the knock on McGovern. That's what we've got to keep an eye out for. But yeah, to George's point, like I think if you had Cherry and Brody, you didn't have McGov, or if you had like McGov and Brody, you didn't have Cherry, I don't think swapping any of these makes sense because none of them are going to be a keeper. None of them are going to make 150k more than the others. So you kind of just have to, I think, stick fat with whatever you got.
Yep. The last guy I guess we'll get to is Will Brodie, who I think George says you don't have him, do you, JD?
I don't.
So, actually looked pretty good in patches, and I think the big contentious part with him is just why he keeps spending so much time on the bench. But it was pretty good up until about halfway through the fourth quarter, and then he was unsighted for the last 20 minutes. What do you think about that, Jordan? I guess that was the issue with him heading into the season and during the preseason, but now we've seen it actually play out in a real game. Does it worry you at all?
I guess he's cheap, so it's not the worst, but a little bit of buyer's remorse here. So I think his ownership was really high, and we know what he can do with midfield opportunity, but time on ground is always going to be terrible. So, and yeah, he ran out the game like 20 minutes on the bench in the fourth quarter. Really, I don't know how the coach can cop that. But
34% time on ground for the fourth quarter. 34%.
Yeah, I think Longmuir says he likes him. I guess I think he said they asked about Clark and Brodie, and Longmuir said, they're here to stay or something like that. They'll be here for a while, I think is the exact words. So,
I mean, that's because Brodie's come with a fat Gold Coast Suns contract that they have to see out. That's why he's going to be there for a while.
Yeah. So I think the scoring he only needs to go about 75, so it's okay. But I think he's the worst of the three. So,
and I guess the 5 factor. Yeah. What do you think about the 5 factor? Who I think might not play again, from what I'm reading or how I'm reading JL's comments. He sort of said he needs to tick a lot of boxes still, which saying that before the upcoming game probably means he's not playing. But yeah, if that's an issue, and then he's coming in round 3, obviously got to see what Brodie produces next week. But does that worry you a bit? Again, with him probably losing a bit more mid-time?
A little bit. I'll just ride it out until he's so cheap. It's not like it's not the worst player I've ever picked, but it's, I could have just fielded Martin and then used that 100k elsewhere, I guess. But maybe he's got a ton in him, so he might be okay. But yeah, it's just a few little red flags here and there, and just hope he keeps holding and scores 75 plus, and then I'll be happy.
Yeah, fair enough. I know you said you wouldn't get McGovern in, but if Brodie does really go very poorly and probably, looks to be a bad pick, and Gov scores an 80, 90 plus again, would you then think about it? I know it's going to cost you 30k, or would you just be going Brodie down to a good rookie? Or
no, I'll let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, I think McGovern's got like a really, really big score in him. It's coming, I think, and I'm gonna hate it, but not much I can do about it now. I don't think that's not really, I think Brodie will keep playing by the sounds of it. So just ride it out for a bit.
I guess that's a hypothetical for you, JD, but same question. What would you do?
Yeah, so assuming I had Brodie, I didn't have McGov. The thing I'm most worried about this week is Fife coming back, and Brodie then either playing a lot of time half forward and it kills his scoring, or he just gets dropped altogether. So if either one of those two things happen, I think it's really easy sideways trade. Any other situation where he's still playing over 50% mid-time or whatever, I think he scores well enough, even with his limited time on ground, to be perfectly fine. So as long as he keeps playing and he's not too far forward, then you just hang on to him.
Fair enough. So that's pretty much all we've got time for now, just under an hour, and we'll quickly go through who we think. Maybe let's go through. We're going to go captains and vice captains, but I've got fieldable questions too. So Mitch Hinge or Paddy McCartan I know you have to field both Jords, but hypothetically at D6, who would you go this week?
McCartan.
JD?
Hinge isn't running games out very well the last 2 games, so just throw McCartan on the field.
Yeah, 6 point second half.
Well, Hinge had his role top though when Dawson and Miller changed positions, which didn't help. But yes, even with the worst role, which maybe might persist now, him scoring 6 points is not good. So I'd have McCartan.
Okay. Josh Ward or Dylan Stevens? George?
Stevens, I think Stevens has a higher floor, a bit older, a bit more conditioned for AFL. But Ward, we know he's capable, but higher ceiling, lower floor sort of scenario. I'd rather go the safer route in Stevens.
Yep. JD?
Yeah, neither for me would be ideal, but Stevens is the one that seems to make sense. Better side, they use him. He can at least find it, even if he's not going to provide a 120 at some point. He should be the high floor, as George mentioned, which after seeing Ward put up a 36 last week, I would be taking the high floor.
Yep, I think I'm the same, but Ward probably finds his way back onto our fields at some point if we do hold on to him. But F6, so obviously depending on your team, but Nick Martin, Jack Hayes, or Durden. Let's go with those 3. Is it just easy, Nick Martin?
Yeah, I think his scoring avenues are a bit more consistent.
So I would say in general, it's Martin. This week with the matchups, Hayes against Fremantle, I guess is pretty interesting, where Essendon play against Brisbane. So I could see an argument for wanting to go Hayes over Martin, but I think both of them over Durden this week. I just don't fancy him against the Bulldogs.
I would never field Durden unless it can be helped. Can't be helped.
I think in plus matchups he's fieldable. They play the Hawks in round 3, and I think he's very fieldable there. If you're not happy with Nick Martin against Melbourne, or actually I think Hayes has got Richmond, so maybe go there. But I think Durden would be fieldable round 3.
Cool. All right, let's finish with the vice captains and captains. So, who would your VC be this week, Jaws? I think you said it to us before, and no McRae. I think it's locked firmly on one of your favourite person.
Every time I hear the word Snow McRae, I die a little bit inside.
Sorry, mate. Sorry.
I did it to myself.
You talk us. So, you might be talking me and JD into it as well.
So I think in an ideal world, it's Neil into Took. I think McRae only scored 100 on Carlton last year, but given Sam de Koning is probably a dedicated loop, he plays Friday night. Dunkley McRae play Thursday night. So I'll be going Dunkley into Neil or Took. I don't know. I really don't.
I think there is an option for those that have Machida Owens that don't trade him this week. So if you've got no problems and you can wait until next week and he gets dropped, which I think is likely, they play the last game of the round, so you can actually loop whoever you want. But for everyone else with de Koning, I think Thursday night's really our only chance to use the loophole. So that'd be Dogs or Carlton.
McRae or Dunkley, JD?
I think I'll go Dunkley if Bontempelli doesn't play.
Yeah. I think I'll stick fat with McRae. For this point, he's very, very safe, and he's part of the reason we did pick him anyway. So stick with him, and look, I do like the upside with Dunkley. We do know he has massive scores in him, so it will tempt me. But just quickly, what's even happening with Libba? He played pretty much half forward the whole game. That can't continue, can it? He was one of the best inside mids last year.
I think he interrupted preseason. We'll see how he goes.
Yeah, someone told me he was returning from COVID as well, which I'm not sure if it's true. I haven't verified it. He had exactly 1 CBA, so
yeah, that's just crazy low.
Yeah. You think that's got to change? Oh, and it'll be interesting to see if Bond's out this week. Then maybe he does get a lot more mid-time. What happens there?
Yeah. All right, guys. Anything else we haven't covered, or you quickly want to cover? Anything happened this week?
Did we speak on? I think we spoke on Jarrod Berry's injury.
Oh yeah. So what's the latest on his shoulder?
The report is inflammation or irritation around his shoulder capsule. It looked quite bad. I guess it seems like he's fine. They said no structural damage, so I really needed to punt someone for Lip. Now I feel like I have to hold Berry. So nah, I think he's a hold.
They play Essendon this week. Like you've got to hold.
Yeah, I
surely.
can't. I
So
want to punt
upset,
him
look
though.
how
I want Lipinski. I don't have an avenue without.
I'm annoyed for you. He did that ankle. You probably, although you wouldn't because of Rao, you just would not have had him anyway.
Yeah,
I know.
couldn't
I
get
reckon
him
if Lipinski had gone 120 in the preseason, he would have picked him over Rao. He would have picked him over Rao for sure.
No. I would have picked both.
You found a way
There's
for
no
both.
Rao's ceiling would have killed me. I think.
All right. Well, I mean, it's worth actually just speaking of Lipinski and Rao, updating everyone on the bet. So
Okay.
Rao.
Well,
Rao
actually,
yeah. I mean, I was worried, right? So Shield went 101. Lipinski went 133. Was it 137? I thought, oh wow, there's no way Rao's like leading after round one, but then the 157 from the shiny golden god.
it was total points, yeah. Total points.
I think so. Like, I don't know. Surely we had to agree to a minimum number of rounds they play.
Well, I think, to be honest, I think you should just say to me that because Rao had osteitis pubis and that was hidden from us, like that's not fair on the bet. I think it should be voided.
It's not fair.
Do you think it's fair? I think it's fair.
We're all working on the same information, and I didn't know either. It's not like he called me up and told me like, JD, man, I had OP last year. It's all good. Don't worry.
Bet on me.
Yeah. Double down.
Respect
on
me.
Rao. Yeah.
Oh well.
Guys, I think that's all for this week. Good luck for the coming round. Don't go too nuts on your trades. Don't trade Boost Lipinski in.
See you later, Chris.
Give everyone another week, and next week will probably be a pretty big podcast onto who we have to correct, who we have to get in, who we have to trade out. So, any final words, boys?
For anyone that doubted me, Cam Rayner is officially a Supercoach bum.
What about Horn Francis?
No, he's all right. He's all right. We found out Noble was a liar and he was going to play more midfield than he let on. So he's not going to be a Supercoach bum. He's good. And he looked really good on the weekend too. North got to be happy about that one.
Yeah. A lot of good young players, actually. So exciting times. All right. See you, boys.